Hello, Phil here from Doncaster Stories, and I'm here today to show you how to plan a particular kind of story which you might be able to enter into our competition, A Changing World. There's loads of great prizes on offer, and today I'm going to show you how to plan an invasion story. Now, an invasion story is when something invades. Examples include alien attacks like War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. It could be zombies attacking, like this great book by Tommy Donbavand. It can be anything you can think of attacking or invading the world. So the world is changing because something has invaded. Today we're going to look at the story structure. We're going to develop some ideas, and we're going to start to think about the vocabulary that you might use when you come to write your story up properly. So here is the story structure, what we're going to be looking at today. So we have actually lived through our very own invasion story. COVID-19, coronavirus, has invaded our world. And this is what happened, okay? So starting off with normal life back in 2019, beginning of 2020, everything was normal. You were going to school, you had your friends and your family around you. Life was pretty normal. But then COVID struck, didn't it? COVID struck, the world went into lockdown. There was a lot of fear around, people were afraid. And the NHS stepped in, people were ill, they were going to hospital, and unfortunately some people lost their lives. So that happened next. Straight away, or pretty soon after, there were attempts to stop COVID. Okay, so here's Boris Johnson saying hands, face, space. So all the different ways that we stepped up to try and stop COVID from spreading. And then finally, success. Success is when the vaccine was approved and now people are being vaccinated. So our fight against this invasion is beginning to come to an end. Eventually we'll get to this part, which is a return to normal life, or whatever that looks like when we get there. Okay, so that is an invasion story. And if you read stories like this, or if you watch any films about that kind of thing, it does actually follow this same pattern. All right, so here is the structure or the pattern that our invasion story follows. All right, so first, normal life. You have a character, you have a setting. It's normally just like a normal, everyday boy or girl or man or woman in the normal life setting. But then something attacks. So I've drawn here a UFO, aliens attack, or it could be monsters or something from underground, or something attacks. It could be insects. I don't know. And then there's attempts to stop whatever it is that's attacking. Okay, and finally a solution is found. Lots of different ideas and different examples of that in stories you might read or watch. And finally, the attack is halted and it's a return to normal life. All right, so that is our structure. And now we're going to change that to be about whatever you want it to be. All right, so then you've got a bit of a plan for when you start to write your story. Okay, so let's start thinking about that now. My story is going to come down here. So first off, what you need is a character, okay? Could be anybody. Like I say, in most stories, it's really good to have somebody pretty normal who the audience can relate to. So let's think. This might help to draw pictures. There's my young boy. His name's Gibran. He's just an ordinary kid. And he lives with his mum. There she is now. There's his mum. And he lives with his dog, who is called Benji. Benji the dog. Okay? So, you could have any kind of variation on this theme. And we need a setting. So, my setting is a setting I know very well. It's going to be Doncaster. So, Doncaster is the setting. So, he lives in Doncaster. And the good thing about making a plan is you can change this, you can add to it as you move along, okay? Now, this is the fun bit, and this is where you can start to use your imagination, all right? Something attacks. Now, what could it be? It's completely up to you. It could be aliens, it could be zombies, it could be witches, it could be giants, what comes along and attacks and changes the world that you're writing about. I'm going to base mine on a story I know called Day of the Triffids. And that is quite a different story because it's plants. It's plants that invade the world. Killer plants. All right. So, plants. And so then have a little think. What is your thing? Is it aliens, giants? What are they going to look like? How are they going to behave? All right. You might want to do some drawings. So here's my plant. It's a long vine. It's got those leaves with kind of jagged edges. Okay. Leaves with jagged edges. It's got thorns or spikes. And maybe there's some kind of spooky or intimidating pattern in the middle of those leaves, all right, just to make it extra spooky. So those are my plants, and now it's time to come up with some vocabulary. Just get that ready for your story, because the best stories are going to have description in them of the invading thing. So jagged leaves. Right, so let's think. Starting with the vines. Prickly vines. I'm coming up now with a noun phrase. It's my adjective. Prickly vines with jagged or frayed leaves. I think jagged is more dangerous. Okay, prickly vines with jagged. What colour are the red leaves? It's kind of like blood, a bit spooky, isn't it? With jagged red leaves. With jagged red leaves. And then I could describe that, couldn't I? This shape here in the middle of a patch with a skull-like, a skull-like image in the center. Okay, so have a think about the detail of the things that are attacking. All right, now what do they do? What do these plants do? Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to creep around the houses, and the houses are going to start to crumble and fall. So here they crumble houses, and then they go inside the houses and they wrap around things, and maybe they start to squeeze them and strangle them. It's going to be a properly dangerous story. Okay, so it's going to strangle pets, I guess, and people. Okay, so we are going properly dangerous with these things, but we don't really want any blood and gore. But, let's have some proper danger. Okay, all right, remember, it's your plan, so if you go over the boxes a bit, that's fine. It's your plan to work out later. Now, let's think. Attempts to stop the attack. Now, if these creeping vines came in, what would you do to them? I think you'd try and chop them, wouldn't you? You'd chop them. Try and chop them back. But in this part of the story, all the attempts are going to fail. So if you chop them, what happens? They're going to grow back double. They're going to grow back. So in brackets, grow back double. Uh-oh. Now, what else would they do to try and stop the attack? Well, remember Boris Johnson here? He was always on telly, or still is, on telly giving us advice. Hands, face, space. So I was thinking, what advice would he give if these plants, these killer plants, invaded? I'm trying to think of a rhyme. I'm thinking, avoid, spray it with weed killer. Avoid, spray, keep away. All right. Avoid, spray, keep away. You can just imagine him saying it, can't you? Okay. What happens if you spray? Remember this, all these have to go wrong. Okay, they're unsuccessful. So if you spray them, they become poisonous. All right. So really, You're making your reader now feel afraid. Okay, they can't see any way out. How are we going to solve this problem? How are the characters going to get away from this? All right. I might have in my story the vine starting to strangle Benji, the dog. But of course, he's our hero, isn't he? Gibran's our hero, so he'd rescue the dog before it got too far. Yeah, so think about your characters and how they interact with all these things that are going on. Now, success. So what is the solution to our invasion problem? In real life, it's the vaccine. So you can think of all kinds of different things to solve your problem. So in War of the Worlds, it's actually a disease. It's like a virus that kills the aliens this time. All right. In Mars Attacks, which is a film, it's a piece of music which makes the aliens' heads explode. All right. So what is the solution to your problem? In my idea would be an insect, maybe a bee. You know how bees pollinate plants? Well, this is maybe Gibran is an expert on insects. So I'm going to go back here. He loves reading, and he's also a bit of an expert on insects. Yep. So go back and change your plan if you think of an idea up here. So Gibran's the one. Normally it's the hero who makes the big difference at this stage. So Gibran discovers super bees. Okay, super bees. All right. So he is a bit of a expert on, as I say, it's more like a wasp, that isn't it? But never mind. Bit of an expert on insects, and he's developed this super bee that pollinates, that visits all the different plants, pollinates the plants, and makes them harmless. So then Gibro is the true hero of the world. He's the one who's found the solution. All right, and then finally, return to normal life. Okay, so everybody's happy, but try and put a little bit of a clever twist in there. In this case, the bees, when they pollinate that plant, they make the world's most delicious honey. Okay, yeah, the world's most delicious honey. All right, and maybe that kind of cures people who've been poisoned by the plant previously, or maybe Gibran becomes rich selling this honey. I don't know. Okay, so have a bit of an ending when things return to normal, but maybe there's a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a change to normal life, as there will be in real life when we return to normal. Things are going to be different, aren't they? So they could be in your story. So there you have it. So what I'd do is I'd use my plan and I'd write up the story, making sure I include lots of description, the characters talking with each other and interacting, making sure my lead character is in it all the way through. Yeah. What else? So don't forget that we are running a competition. So this is just one example of something you could do for the title, A Changing World. You can probably think of loads of other ideas. There are prizes to win. You can get your work in an anthology, a book, published book for Doncaster. There's t-shirts, there's books, there's £50 worth of Waterstones vouchers, all kinds of prizes. So send it in to us and let us see what story you come up with, whether it's an invasion story or anything else.